As of its English translation, I do not want to write this encyclical without turning to that attractive and compelling figure, whose name I took as my guide and inspiration when I was elected Bishop of Rome. With these words, Saint Francis of Assisi addressed his brothers and sisters and proposed to them a way of life marked by the flavor of the gospel. Of the counsels Francis offered, I would like to select the one in which he calls for a love that transcends the barriers of geography and distance, and declares blessed all those who love their brother as much when he is far away from him as when he is with him. In his simple and direct way, Saint Francis expressed the essence of a fraternal openness that allows us to acknowledge, appreciate, and love each person, regardless of physical proximity, regardless of where he or she was born or lives.
Habemus Papam.
San Francesco de Assisi or Sanctus Franciscus and Pope Francis, or the former Argentinian cardinal born as George Bergoglio and as reportedly the runner-up to Pope Benedict in the conclave way back in 2005, could be described as both in a low profile for humility and holiness.
Sancte Romani Ecclesiae Cardinalem Bergoglio.
Pope Francis always has a raging pastoral dedication to the poor, as the Sanctus Franciscus had been extremely concerned for God's creation and for the poor and recluse. Sanctus Franciscus had been treasured and respected and was deeply worshipped and cherished for his joy and exaltation and of his princely self-giving and generosity. The church history tells us that Sanctus Franciscus is the very first man who had accepted the wounds of Christ, known as the stigmata. He turned out to be a venerated Catholic saint even from the fact that he was raised from a wealthy family, but instead, at the hindmost of all this providence and propitious life, he open-heartedly renounced their family's fortune and prosperity. In his Laudatu, Pope Francis had quantified his thought in associates to his savoir-faire on the Sanctus, as he said, to quote, "I do not want to write this encyclical without turning to that attractive and compelling figure, whose name I took as my guide and inspiration when I was elected Bishop of Rome. I believe that Saint Francis is the example for excellence of care for the vulnerable and of an integral ecology lived out joyfully and authentically. He is the patron saint of all who study and work in the area of ecology, and he is also much loved by non-Christians. He was particularly concerned for God's creation and for the poor and outcast.
Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
He loved and was deeply loved for his joy, his generous self-giving, his open-heartedness. He was a mystic and a pilgrim who lived in simplicity and in wonderful harmony with God, with others, with nature, and with himself. He shows us just how inseparable the bond is between concern for nature, justice for the poor, commitment to society, and interior peace. Pope Francis ever since had this dream of a more pastoral and more open church, as he had seen in his mind's eye the vibrant and flamboyant immanent of a church that is more pastoral, more sensible, and more receptive, adjacent to the passages drawn and outlined by the Second Vatican Council even at the very beginning of Pope Francis' papacy.